This episode of Selling with Social is being brought to you by STAR, the Sales Team Alpine Retreat, a Frost and Sullivan Executive MindXchange taking place this February 7th through 9th, 2018 in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. And now to Selling with Social.
There's a Harvard Business Review article that talked about the companies that have implemented AI have seen increases of about 50% just in leads. And that's on the front end of the sales process.
Hey y'all, welcome to Selling with Social, the podcast that helps marketers increase marketing qualified leads, sales reps to shatter sales results, and sales leaders to grow as leaders. Each show, we interview sales, marketing, and social media practitioners, leaders, and influencers to help you connect, close more deals, build stronger relationships with clients, and improve your sales productivity. I'm Mario Martinez Jr. You're now listening to Selling with Social. Lori Harmon, I am so excited that you're joining me here on Selling with Social today, my friend. I am glad that we had a chance to get the extraordinaire, one of the experts in helping to build high growth inside sales organizations, and author. And you're going to be speaking in February 2018 at the Frost Star event, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Those are all correct, Mario. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really am excited to be here.
Well, it's going to be a fun conversation. As you know, we've got sales leaders, we've got marketers, we've got business owners, all listening in to Selling with Social to help them understand how to grow, how to drive revenue, how to deliver. And I hear that you might be the woman to help us learn some of these things.
Well, I'm sure I can contribute to that. Absolutely.
So do me a favor, my friend. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know I introduced you, but tell people about where you're at today, which is BlackBerry, and some of your background so that people get to know you.
Okay. Thanks, Mario. Well, as you mentioned, I am at BlackBerry today. I run the global inside sales team at BlackBerry and really love working here. And before BlackBerry, I worked at a security software startup called Contrast Security, also ran sales there, and have been a lot of different software high-tech companies where I've run field sales, channel sales, global customer support, primarily inside sales though. That I keep coming back to that inside sales model because I think it really works, and it's turning out, when I started, nobody had heard of it, and now it's turning out to be a really high growth area for most sales organizations.
That is true.
And then additionally, I'm an author, as you said. I wrote a book. It's called 42 Rules for Building High Velocity Inside Sales Teams. And that's gone very well for me. It just kind of took all the thoughts I'd had over the years and all the things I'd learned and put them down into a book that you could actually read in about an hour and a half.
So I'm curious about the book here. You've got 42 rules. What made you come up with 42 rules?
Well, when I pitched the book, I pitched it to a company and they had a whole series of books on 42 rules. And so I fell into their cover, their overarching methodology of doing 42 rules. So it's 42 rules. Each rule is 2 pages long about building high velocity inside sales teams. In this case, they of course have a bunch of other books that they published that are all 42 rules types of books.
Hey, that's pretty smart. So when you pitched it, you did some research like a good salesperson would, figured out that they had a bunch of books in their portfolio all about 42 something, right? 42 rules.
Yes.
And so you decided to pitch it with that same concept as well.
Exactly. And I really like their concept because when you look at their books, I didn't want something that was, 500 pages because it does take a long time to get through books like that. I wanted something that was fairly short and to the point, and it met my criteria and it met their criteria. So it was a good match.
I love it. That's great. That's a good story. It's always about selling and it's always about knowing your audience, right? And making sure that you're matching your deliverables to what the audience, their taste, what they like. And in this case, you knew that.
Exactly. Salespeople, as you know, don't have very long attention spans, so they like to read things that are quick. And I believe the company got the 42 rules from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, if you're familiar with the book, right? The answer was 42.
Love it. Fantastic. And I always love asking my guests this question, which is, tell us something about you that we would not know by looking at your social profiles.
Okay. Well, I would say that something that people wouldn't know is that I went in Nepal, I mountain biked to Nepal, and one of the stops we made it into a park. And it was, it was like an outdoor safari type park. And I went on elephant safari and we chased a white rhino. So pretty good story, not typically something you put on your LinkedIn profile.
Wait, you went on an elephant safari, but you chased a rhino.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we couldn't have gone rhino safari because clearly riding a rhino would have been kind of tough. It was much easier to ride the elephant. And then they saw this white rhino. And let me tell you, this elephant was crashing through the brush and knocking down trees. It was a really crazy time.
Wow. So I actually have a story as well. When I went to Africa, we were in Madikwe, and in Madikwe was the safari. And you're in the Jeep and there's like 4 rows and they all stack up, the lowest row, and then all the way to the back, it gets higher. And one of the Jeeps that was in our group, they started tracking a rhino. And so they finally caught up with the mama and the rhino. Well, that was awesome because they got to sit there and watch the mama and the rhino together from a distance. What they didn't know was that there was a male that was also tracking the female as well. It was pre-mating season. And so literally from around the corner on the video camera, you hear like this ba-dum, 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 and it's getting louder. And then you see a camera, which is one of the folks that was on the Jeep. They turn and they pan over to the left. And what you see is a giant rhino charging the Jeep. And all of a sudden, as soon as the rhino was about to hit the Jeep, they dropped the camera and everybody's screaming. And the rhino stopped. And you hear in the background is this going like that. And so he stopped right at the Jeep. And basically that was their warning shot. And the ranger didn't even have time to pull his gun out, right, to protect the people. And he's like, it's time to go. So
wow.
That was their warning of, you better back away because this is my woman I'm tracking.
That's pretty exciting. I don't know about being on that safari, but at least you got to see it. You weren't the one holding the camera, right?
I was not the one holding the camera. I got to hear the report when everybody came back and see the video. So there goes my rhino story. You've got your rhino story. Let's talk a little bit about building high velocity inside sales teams. You hit the nail on the head. Absolutely. It is one of the growing trends, as you and I both know, inside of sales. And there's a reason for that. But, a lot of organizations are suffering. They're challenged with how to deliver and how to build a quality inside sales organization that is producing results. So you've got 42 rules. Give us a couple. And then I want to talk a little bit about some of these other things that you may be talking about, which I'm sure you're starting to think about right now, maybe like artificial intelligence within the inside sales model. So give us a couple rules and let's get into some other discussions related to artificial intelligence.
Okay, well, I love your point about a lot of people are trying to build inside sales teams today, and it can be challenging, and you have to do it the right way. So I would say one of the key rules is have a go-to-market strategy. Inside sales has to make sense for your company and the products that you're selling and the space that you're going into. So before you do anything, and this is a foundational rule for a company, right? You have to have a go-to-market strategy to make sure that inside sales fits as one of your possible go-to-market vehicles or channels for your company. So I'd say that's probably one. The other thing is really understanding once you have that, what kind of team should you build? In some cases, companies may only need the front end. They may only need, for example, what's called a sales development organization. And sales developers are the people who typically will take marketing leads and qualify them or go out and hunt on behalf of a sales rep to find additional opportunities and get your market started, build up your funnel for you so you have opportunities to take through the sales process. And to keep it simple, I would say maybe the third rule is make sure you have definitions for what you're doing. So have a definition for what's a qualified lead and all the different sales stages that you're going through to make sure everybody's clear so you have a single language that you're talking about within your organization, again, regardless of what kind of sales team you have.
Great points. I want to go back to the one you mentioned first, which was talking about the go-to-market strategy. And you said determine if the inside sales model is a fit for your company. So break that down for me, Lori. How do you determine if that is the right model? I've got a field sales organization. I maybe have an SDR team or a BDR team. I'm thinking about inside sales, or I've got an inside sales team and I'm thinking about scaling that as opposed to my field sales team. Or maybe it's both, right? Like, well, how do I determine if it's a good fit?
I think the most important thing is you got to understand your buyer, right? Is your buyer going to be receptive to purchasing something by only talking to somebody via email and phone and possibly like we are over a screen sharing application? And so those customers are not likely going to be your top enterprise customers. Those are going to require face-to-face visits. You're going to want something maybe in the commercial or say mid-tier small business space where inside sales can be successful. So if your product doesn't lend itself to being sold in the small to medium-sized market, it's not likely that you're going to need an inside sales closing team that works in your organization. So I would look at the company size that you're selling to, the deal size that's being completed, although inside salespeople are are certainly doing much larger deal sizes today than I saw when I first started my career. And then just make sure that your buyer is going to be receptive to purchasing in that fashion. And what we're finding is something that's driving the growth of inside sales really is the tools that are available and the fact that buyers are receptive, because buyers are very busy. They don't want to have a face-to-face meeting in a lot of cases. They just want to send an email, have a quick online meeting, and move on with their day. So as you move up the stack in terms of company sizes, buyers are actually getting more and more receptive as you go up in terms of buying from an inside sales type of model.
I cannot disagree with you. In fact, I think what we've seen as a growing trend is as we try to virtualize the sales organization, companies are trying to virtualize their entire workforce, right? And so a lot of the folks that we used to call on at headquarters, as an example, and a lot of organizations still today, which is probably the best route to do, is where's the company headquartered out of? And that's where we put a rep at, right? But the reality is the CXO, CIO, CRO, CMO, C something, or all the VPs and directors, we've got a dispersed workforce. And it is very difficult now to be able to get in front of people face to face, especially because we pack out our calendars so much with meeting after meeting after meeting, right? And so you have a 30-minute meeting. You're going to take 10 minutes to go find the person, bring them to your office, and then 10 minutes to go drop them off back out in the lobby. That's an hours, right? So oftentimes you don't have that ability when you're back to back on meetings, and people have booked that because of, good old-fashioned Outlook calendar.
Exactly.
So do you... Go ahead.
So I was going to say, I like your first point is, buyers are everywhere. And if you look at the customer executive board, they talk about the fact that I think today there's 7 buyers for every major deal. So how do you get to all 7 people and meet with them? How does the salesperson have time, much less the buyer have time? And you can't necessarily get all those 7 people in a room at the same time. So you're going to have meeting after meeting yourself to try to coalesce all those buyers to get on the same page to make a final purchase decision.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that, inside sales has definitely been a focus on that smaller swath, but inside sales is really starting to climb up into the larger enterprise. And I agree with you. I also believe, especially as we talk about digital, right? Vengreso being a digital sales transformation company.
Yep.
We push the use of tools and technologies like Zoom, where we're talking to each other literally face to face. And we can see each other's facial expressions, hand gestures, movements, those types of things. And the buyers are looking for that type of experience as well, not just the good old, let's have a phone call type of audio conference. Do you think that in the inside sales world, that there's a lot more virtual video collaboration than there was in the past? Or should there be a lot more?
Well, definitely there should be. I do think that there's more than there was, but I also think that a lot of times people get on the screen share application and they still just talk. But I do agree with you that buyers really appreciate being able to put that face-to-face connection and really see who they're buying from. And in fact, it's not only the virtual screen share. What we're seeing is a lot of video tools being used by inside salespeople to record a video and then send that video out to a prospect or potential buyer and help them or motivate them to contact the person because they feel like it was a personalized type of communication with that buyer. And so we're seeing a lot more of that type of approach in terms of tools.
Are you guys using one internally within your organization?
We're actually in the process of piloting a solution to do that in our organization. So we're going to test some reps without it and some reps with it and find out if it's really impacting our response time in a positive manner.
Well, you described something that is a hot topic for us. We talk about the digital outreach, and personalized videos are a phenomenal way to be able to reach your buyers. And it's something that nobody's using right now, or very few are using. I'll give you actually some stats. So we utilize a tool called OneMob, and we actually have a whole training program that's wrapped around the use of digital sales video, not just one-to-one personalized message, but how to use these videos now on LinkedIn as an example, the right way.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Love it.
And so one of the things that we have shown people is we ran a test, and it was with me alone, and it was with 1,022 messages that I sent as a result of people connecting with me on LinkedIn. And I sent a personalized video to them. Now, it was obviously the same video, right? But very personalized, very Mario flavor. But the messaging was personalized. I said, "Hey, Lori, thanks so much for connecting me. I made this video message for you." And then I had a 1.5-minute message. Now, here's some great stats about this. I'm curious to see what the results will be when you guys are in your pilot program. But the stats were, we had a 43% open rate.
Wow. I'm writing this down because I'm going to compare my stats to yours. I love this.
Okay. 43%. Now, Lori, we talk about email marketing. The best you're going to get, the national average is 1 to 3%. And you're not going to get it much over 3%, right? On your email stats. Now, think about your cold calling rate. Your cold calling rate, we all know that it's usually less than 10%. And oftentimes most organizations, it's much less than that, right? But let's just give people the benefit of the doubt. So you're not reaching 90% of your targeted audience. So we did a 43% open rate, and we had on that landing page 3 assets, 3 call to actions that I described as, thanks for connecting me. I wanted to provide something of value to you. Here's blah, 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 right? 3 assets. Mm-hmm. 1,022, we had 1,018 clicks.
Wow.
Now, it wasn't an exact
unheard of.
It wasn't an exact 1-for-1 because we obviously only had a 43% open rate, right? So, but basically what it was one person was opening up 1 to 2 items because of what I said and because of the lead magnet that I provided and or the value that I provided. And so, as I talk about that with other leaders in terms of video, especially inside sales, coming full circle, especially inside sales, you can create a buying relationship face to face just like this because people still buy from humans. Which, and I think in the inside sales world, this has been very successful. Like we've done this with now several different sports clubs and a very large HR payroll outsourcing organization. And we've had some really good results, and it's very exciting and to see what's happening in the inside sales world. But I always tell all my clients, tell me if you agree, never have a meeting without your video being turned on if you're in inside sales.
We don't have that policy, but I like it. I really like it. I think it would improve the outcomes.
I believe so. And, I was on a call earlier this morning, and it was a 3-way call, and the individual said, I feel so bad. I said, why? They said, because you've been on video this whole time and I have not. And it's not because I didn't want to. It's not because I'm in my pajamas. It's because I don't have a camera on this laptop.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And so they said, thank you so much. It was nice to actually see your face, see your expressions. Like it actually felt like I got to know you better, even though it was one-sided. And I think that's a valid point inside of inside sales. And maybe tell me what the results might be in terms of the difference. Anyways, video, love it. And I think it's the way to go. Any other trends that you see happening inside of inside sales that are things that people should be looking for? Maybe it's talk about the artificial intelligence and how it's making an impact or change inside of sales or inside of inside sales.
Well, that's definitely something that we're starting to see is the use of inside sales or the use of AI for inside sales. And I think it's definitely early days, but there are a lot of companies out there that are using it and finding it to work. In fact, I was doing some research on it because I do think it's trending and I think it's a really important area to be up to speed on. And I noticed there's a Harvard Business Review article that talked about the companies that have implemented AI have seen increases of about 50% just in leads. And that's on the front end of the sales process. That doesn't talk about how productive it can make your salespeople, how much more productive it can make your sales managers, and the rest of the sales process that could benefit from AI. So I definitely think that is something that people need to be aware of and familiar with. And so when the time is right for them, their team, and their companies to start implementing, they should be on top of it. You don't want to miss out on this direction in the marketplace.
And, I think we're in the stream of time where I think buyers recognize that there is, some sort of technology evolution that's happening that even their own companies are using. And they're more accepting of finding out that I was just engaging with a bot. Was I really?
Yeah, I don't usually say that on the phone, though. Yeah. Don't tell them necessarily. They might figure it out if they're a pretty sophisticated buyer, definitely.
Yeah. I actually didn't realize this, but I was on a chat and there was some technology that was behind it. And it was a bot. And I was having a good old conversation. And then I forget the question I asked, and I made an LOL. I did something that was more of an emotional touch. Mm-hmm. And the response I got back was, okay, either this person is not a real person or is somewhat dry. And I think that's a fear for many sales professionals, right? That you may lose the buyer with using artificial intelligence. What's your view? How do sales professionals view AI?
Well, I think from a sales professional's perspective is once they understand it, first of all, if they, it depends on which part of AI, right? So I agree with your fear that it might blow a sale, but ideally you're going to, for that part of it, you're going to have a product that you've thoroughly tested, and the product should be able to understand when a human needs to get involved and say, whoa, hey, give me a human here before I respond to this message because they said something like LOL or something that the machine didn't understand. So that is a trust factor that you really have to build up over time. But I think the other part of it, maybe early on in the process, automating a lot of the routine tasks that salespeople may have to do, that's something they're going to be rejoicing over, because I think most of us know that in general, salespeople spend about 80% of their time on administrative tasks, right? So they have 20% of their time to sell. But the most important thing they should be doing is selling, because that's how we all make money. And so if they can see a path to having their routine task automated, that's something that will get them excited about AI. And then as they get more into it, they have to start to trust the rest of it. Like if it's analyzing the big data behind what I'm going to sell, is it serving me up the right prospects to call? Is it helping me prioritize the opportunities in the right way? So I'm calling the people who have the highest propensity to buy in the shortest amount of time. And I think that will take more time to have salespeople start to trust that part of AI.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, give me an idea, routine tasks that might be automated through artificial intelligence. Give me any examples you can think of what that might look like?
Well, I think, just sorting through some of their data. Like right now, they have to go and if you're starting a new territory, for example, you have to go into some kind of a contact database. Hopefully you're not just doing it all off, manually, and come up with the name of the contacts and the people you should talk to and the name of the companies. Well, what if you have an AI tool that has looked at your company's history of buying in their database, and they say, okay, you need to go get this type of buyer out of this size of company and this type of title. And they guide you with, again, the prospects that have the most propensity to buy. So they can help you, first of all, target, and then they can help you get the data into a format where you could go after it. So that's one thing that would help automate some of the routine tasks. Of course, there's the basic stuff, which is less about AI, but more about automation, which is just logging. If you're an inside rep, you have to log everything in your system, right? So those things can be easily automated. The calling can be logged, the emails can be logged, the responses. Those are things that are already being done today that are not necessarily AI, but then AI can come in on top of that and say, well, the most opportune way to get in touch with a prospect is to call them 8 times or 12 times or 15 times. And maybe it's different depending on the prospect. Maybe one is 8 and one is 15. And so you're not going to give up too soon. But then, there's in terms of contacting, you won't give up at 8 if it's supposed to be 15, right? So it helps guide you along that pathway. And I think those are some of the things that AI could automate. It could also automate actually bringing leads to you. If it knows the best profile buyer, it knows who to contact when, because maybe they're online somewhere, not necessarily on your website, but they're online somewhere looking at some type of information that is specific to your market. And they know that that's the time to have you or have your bot reach out to that prospect to try to hook them in because they know they're in the market for your technology. Yeah. So that's another thing that would definitely help automate the process for a salesperson.
Yeah, I love what you described there. And I know that you sit on the customer advisory board for LinkedIn, and I'm part of their top 10 partner pilot program that they've pulled in, the LinkedIn experts for. And one of the things that I wish that LinkedIn would do is open up their platform so that you can utilize technology like an artificial intelligence tool that goes out and does the research for me to say, well, look, if I'm selling to Lori Harmon, I'm going to look at the different social platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever it might be, all of these channels, and serve up to me or to the sales rep, where should I engage at? Where should I not waste my time at, right? Because that's what happens is a lot is in the digital selling world is, a lot of leaders look at this and they say, shoot, I don't want my people wasting time. They have to go look here, then they have to go look there, then they have to go look here. What's the best place and what is the best piece of content that I might be able to engage with that I can map my content from the company to something that person is sharing, right? That would be the ultimate nirvana state, but unfortunately, LinkedIn has a closed network, as you know, and they don't open up their APIs for anything. But I want to go into this topic about artificial intelligence and sales leaders, because I believe that AI will have the largest impact to the benefit of sales leaders. But before we talk about that, I want to take this short break and hear this message from our program sponsor. I'm excited to mention Vengreso's partnership with Frost Sullivan on the launch of the Sales Team Alpine Retreat, STAR for short. Vengreso is proud to be a partner for the event, and I'll also be presenting a session on digital selling strategies and tactics. If you're not already familiar with Frost & Sullivan's Star Executive MindXchange, you're missing an amazing opportunity to participate in what will be the most important sales leadership think tank ever. I encourage you to join us at Star February 7th through the 9th, 2018 in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. As an event partner, we're super excited to extend a $250 savings to all Vengreso event attendees. For more information, please visit frost.com/Vengreso. That's frost.com/Vengreso. Vengreso. Okay, before we left, I said I wanted to talk about the impact that AI would have on sales leaders, because I truly believe that artificial intelligence, whether you're a field sales, inside sales, sales leader, it doesn't matter. Any sales leader, the best and greatest impact that AI will have is for the sales leaders to better coach. Now, before I give my opinion, I want to hear yours. What do you think the impact AI will have on sales leadership?
So I think I agree with you. First of all, I think it's going to be huge. And you just mentioned the word coaching, which is really, really important. So one of the areas that I think that AI can help in terms of coaching is when calls are being recorded today, for example, most of the time you have to listen to the whole thing, right? You have to listen to the whole call to kind of figure out where the rep needs to be coached. But going forward, there's going to be solutions. In fact, there are some that are out there today. So it can really help you analyze the recording based on certain things that the buyer says or that the rep says. And first of all, shorten the time you have to spend on listening to the whole recording and help you to focus in right on a certain area. It can also start to analyze exactly where deals are getting stuck in the process, so you know what piece of a person's sales methodology or sales approach you need to coach on. Like if they're a really great hunter and they're good at qualifying, you don't necessarily need to listen to those recordings or coach them there. But if they can't close, and that's what the recording is hearing, and the AI can pick that up, then that's where a manager needs to focus on coaching that particular rep. So I think it's going to save them a ton of time in terms of coaching and help them hone in on exactly the right areas. And so they'll actually have more time to do coaching because they won't be sitting around spending their time figuring out where people need to be coached. The AI tool will tell them where to coach their reps. So I think that's one of the huge areas that it will help sales management going forward.
I love what you just said, and you are absolutely right. That's one of the single biggest challenges to sales leaders is if I got a team of 7 people, I can't possibly listen to all of their phone calls, especially in the inside sales world, every single day. Otherwise, I'll never get my job done, right? And
exactly.
We need sales leaders, frontline sales managers are the most important asset, in my opinion, to closing and helping develop our people and resources. And we unfortunately put our sales leaders in a position oftentimes not to succeed because of how much work we put on them and the fact that they're having to listen, they're having to coach, they're having to listen to a 1-hour call or a 30-minute call times 7 times, 4 times a day times, however, it becomes very difficult. And so I think you said this earlier about, using artificial intelligence for predictive type of analysis. I want to know that if my rep has put something in and says this deal is going to close and forecast it for 90 days from now at a 70% probability, I want Einstein, as an example.
Yes, absolutely.
To tell me, yes, that's true, or no, that's not. And I want it to not just look at all the data I entered into Salesforce. I want it to go out and I want it to bring in the call. I wanted to analyze the call. I wanted to analyze the data that I've put in. I wanted to analyze the data the words that I heard to the data that I put in to the percentage. I wanted to do those types of things and become smart enough to help me say, all right, we've got a couple of inconsistencies here. Let me go and listen to this. And so I can make a more educated or better coaching decision to help my rep out. And I think those things will be of great value. The question is how far off are we from having these types of tools?
That's a great question. I mean, some of the stuff we're talking about here already exists, but certainly, you've got a great vision there. You may have to go build your own AI tool and add that to your portfolio there at Vengreso, because that's a wonderful vision, because I do think they like the call recording that you can do now. And there are things that'll help you be more accurate in your forecast, but marrying the two together, that's definitely not available now. But I love the vision that you have for putting those two things together to really nail down and solidify the accuracy of a rep's forecast. That would be amazing. But I think that's probably, unless you go get it done yourself, Mario, that's probably a few years away.
Well, maybe that's our new idea, huh?
Yeah, there you go. Don't tell anybody. Oh, we just told a bunch of people.
We just told everybody. Well, I was listening to, you may have seen, Salesforce created a sales documentary called The Story of Sales. And they had 19 sales influencers that they selected to be in the movie. And I'm thankful that I was one of them. I'm super excited about that.
Yay, congrats.
Thank you. But I didn't know something about the history of sales. And you may or may not know this, but Neil Rackham, who is the author of Spin Selling, he was actually talking about the origin of CRM, and that the origin of CRM came as a direct result, not to help salespeople, but it was to help CEOs better forecast the business that they were going to be bringing to the marketplace. And that it was truly designed to be a forecasting tool. So we've come so far away from that concept of CRM. Almost every salesperson dreads the concept of a CRM.
Right. Well, now I know why salespeople, feel like it's big brother, and it's not for them, it's for management, which is true. But ideally today, we've changed some of that and made it to their benefit.
Well, and that's the point right there, right? You hit the nail on the head, is taking these tools and bringing them to the next level so that they do serve a purpose. I haven't played with this tool yet, but there's a startup company called salesdirector.ai, and it's really designed to help bring in all these coaching parameters and all these different components to be able to help the sales manager, sales director to be able to better coach their people by listening to some of the conversations and then trying to marry that to the predictive analytics of the data that you've entered. So the future may be here. The question is, how good is it? And I think that's an important element there. But let me ask this question. Let's flip this around from the sales side, and let's talk about now the buyer side. How will AI impact the buyer side? Because there's a lot of people out there that says AI will replace salespeople. Yes, true, no, false?
I say false, of course. Maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a salesperson, but I think another analogy you could use there is the ATM example. When ATMs first came out, they said, okay, we're not going to need bank tellers. Well, we still need bank tellers, and we're still going to need salespeople. To me, AI is a way to partner with a salesperson, again, to give them more time, to give them more insight, but you're still going to need salespeople because the bot is not going to establish the relationship you need to ultimately close the sale. I mean, maybe there will be some transactional sales that get done without much human intervention, or maybe with no human intervention. I mean, hey, you can buy on Amazon today with talking to a person. But for the area where we sell, the large enterprises where you need to have a relationship, that's not going to be replaced. Or the creativity that a salesperson brings, or their ability to structure a complex deal and be creative on deal strategy. I don't think any of that can be replaced by AI. So I don't think it's going to eliminate the salesperson's job. I actually think it's going to make their job better and allow the salesperson to have more fun doing what they're really good at, and also to help them in terms of productivity. So I don't think it's going to eliminate a salesperson's job. I think it's going to make it much better.
Interesting thoughts there. And I do believe...
Go ahead. I wanted to add something that I thought about, because you mentioned the buyer. And I think for the buyer, though, it's also going to be a better experience, because now instead of getting hounded by salespeople until they're ready to buy, or maybe they're never ready, the timing will be so much better that the salesperson will come to them when they're closer to being ready to buy, when they're in the market. And so they'll want to talk to the salesperson because they'll be in the market. And so their experience will actually be also better. So a better buyer experience and a better salesperson's experience.
Boom. You hit the nail on the head right there on that one. So I have a keynote, and in the keynote, we talk about the modern buyer requires a modern seller. And there's a slide I have inside there, and it shows several different brands. And if you look at, as an example, Netflix, Apple, Amazon. Now, this is all on the B2C side, right? But nonetheless, how is it that Amazon knows every 3 to 4 months to serve up an ad to my wife that says, hey, you buy this type of aftershave and this type of lotion and this type of oil every 3 to 4 months. And it's called The Art of Shaving. And The Art of Shaving, this product is amazing. I love it. And it's every 3 to 4 months. I run out, and it serves it up every 3 to 4 months. And guess what? She sees it and she says, hey, are you running low on whatever it might be, oil, shave cream, this? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I am. Can you order that? Same with Netflix. Think about this. We go and we turn on Netflix, and there's this thing called recommendations, right? Mm-hmm. It starts recommending movies and or TV shows that you have consistently browsed through, watched a trailer for, and or even watched yourself. So there's this, maybe call it artificial intelligence, call it smart intelligence. But there is this smart intelligence there that allows us to be able to be served up content and make it feel digitally personalized, right? I feel it's personalized to me because it's starting to build my buying habits. And I truly believe that this is an area that in the B2B world, especially like within inside sales, this is an area that will be of exponential growth, because now a sales rep will be served up right into their CRM, going back to the CRM. Hey, your contact at Lori Harmon, you lost this deal 2 years ago, and they said they signed a 24-month long contract. You may have forgotten. It's about 18 months into the contract. Would you like to go back and talk with them? Now, that's a very basic example that we have today, but you get the idea of being able to serve up personalized content for outreach. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's exactly what has to happen. And it actually goes back to what you were talking about earlier, where you want to know what is their best social media and what's the best thing to use to approach them. I think that actually has to happen to make what you're saying real. Something has to go out and look at all the different social areas, figure out which social medium or medium your buyer is on, what is trending for them on that, and say, hey, this person that is in your network or that has a propensity to buy your product, they just tweeted this. And now is the time to go do it. I'm looking for, they're looking for something, or they just downloaded a white paper from this site, and the white paper allows them to get information on a product that's similar to yours, or on a concept that's similar to what the product that you're selling. So I think what you talked about earlier actually has to be put together to really be able to serve up uber personalized content for your salesperson to know exactly when to contact the buyer and what to say when they contact them.
Yeah, I love that. It's a valid point. I think you and I are onto something here. We better find out a way to figure out developers and make some money off this.
Exactly. You better go fast. There probably is somebody's working on it, but if we can get our act together really quick, we can do this. I love it. And I would much rather, as a buyer, as you said, you like when Netflix does that. You feel it's personalized. And I would prefer to have that versus the hundreds of emails I get from people asking about M&A. Well, I'm not doing M&A. I do sales. And so why am I getting an email from somebody about some M&A something or some other product that I don't care about? So it's just another delete I have to do in my inbox. But if somebody sends me something personalized and it happens to be the right time, I will open that email and I will respond to them.
So speaking of that, where I think artificial intelligence needs to go immediately is into email marketing. So all my marketing friends out there listening, because the next time that I get a subject line that says, hey, Mario M. comma.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yes.
Like there should be some intelligence in these marketing systems that says, there should be a flag. There's only one letter with a dot. Hello, that's how I have my LinkedIn profile. I know that you've scraped my LinkedIn profile and you're just pulling in my first name and my middle initial because that's what's on my LinkedIn profile. It's on my Twitter profile. I know it's like there has to be some level of intelligence that we get into this email marketing, but that's a different subject that's beyond you and I. Let me ask just a couple more questions, Lori. As you think about going full circle back to how we open up this podcast, which is building a high velocity inside sales team, what are the maybe 1 to 3 things that you think inside sales teams need to stop doing in order to be more successful?
Oh, what do they need to stop doing? That's a great question. Well, one of the things they need to stop doing is related to what you just said about email marketing. They need to stop sending messages that aren't personalized, whether that's a voicemail or an email or an in-mail. They need to stop spamming potential buyers because it doesn't work. So that, to me, would be the number one thing that sales organizations need to stop doing. They need to step back, take a moment, do a little research on their buyer until they get the automated research from AI, and they need to take a moment and make it personalized.
I love that one. In fact, I'll tag you on a LinkedIn post that I just put out there. And this was my all-time favorite. This just happened. This just happened this week. It's the best one. I get a cold call and I sometimes answer my phone depending on the mood. Sometimes I don't, right? Based on the caller ID. I didn't know the caller ID. I said, well, what the heck? Let me answer the phone. I answer the phone and her name is Lisa. And she was very kind. She's like, hi, Mario, this is Lisa. And I'm with such and such LinkedIn company. And what we do is we help increase your lead flow by a minimum of 15% by doing LinkedIn outsourcing and LinkedIn messaging on LinkedIn. And I thought, wait, did you just try to pitch me through a cold call, LinkedIn outsourcing and messaging? I'm so confused right now. But then she went on her pitch. I said, And she went on her pitch and she talked about, how they help you with your LinkedIn. They take over your profile. They do blah, 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 all these things. And then I said, Lisa, thank you so much for calling. I said, let me ask you a question. Did you look me up prior to calling me? And she said, no, I obviously know you're asking that question because you're trying to get at something. What exactly did I miss? And I said, well, the company that you work for, that LinkedIn influencer is a peer of mine. And so had you taken the time to look, you would have figured out that I'm not your buyer. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry. Marketing should have vetted all of these leads when they handed them over to me. And then I said, but you know what's a little more strange is that you cold called me to sell me LinkedIn outsourcing to grow my leads by 15%. She was quiet. And I said, but here's the point. Here's my best recommendation. Why don't you do a little bit of research? 3 minutes of research. Here was her answer. Here's the kicker, Lori. Well, if I researched every single person that I call, then I'll never have a chance to be able to call anybody. Thoughts, feedback. I'll pause there before I give my response.
Oh my gosh. First of all, amazing conversation that you had. And clearly, it's not about researching all day and not making any calls. You research and then you do your outreach, right? Research, phone, email, LinkedIn, and especially in this particular scenario, they're selling a product on LinkedIn, but they're not using LinkedIn to contact their buyers. So that in itself is pretty astounding that they weren't using their, drinking their own Kool-Aid, shall we say.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too is I think a best practice for reps in terms of looking at how to do this research. Look, at the end of the day, between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, if you prepare your call plan of the 30 people, 40 people that you need to call, maybe it's 50 people, and you do what I call the 3x3, Lori, 3 things in 3 minutes, right? If she had just looked me up, she would have saw, oh, why am I even calling this guy? Like there's no point. He's a competitor to us, right? Or he's a trainer on these platforms. That probably doesn't make sense. Or maybe she did want to make that phone call, but she would have at least acknowledged up front, I recognize that you are a leader when it comes to leveraging digital selling or social selling and or LinkedIn, right? Like, at least you make some acknowledgement, but this is why I thought it might be valuable to have this call. Now, I actually would have been really interested, like, okay, well, help me understand. How could you help me if, now that you know this, because that you actually would have done the research. So I think that's probably key as well is take the time in the evening, prepare your call plan for have your 3 things that you know about that individual that could allow you to be able to have an educated discussion or allow you to be able to figure out that person, one of those people you were going to call, you know what? You shouldn't call. They're the wrong person, right? And that you pick somebody else to move on instead of wasting 5 or 10 minutes trying to talk to that person. So
exactly. She wasted more time calling you. But that's exactly what we tell our reps to do. And the evening before you go home, do your research. So when you walk in the next morning, you are ready to go with your research and you can start making calls. Perfect.
And there you go. That is the best practice that we'll close on for this podcast. Before I go, you've heard it from one of the industry experts, Lori Harmon. She is the Vice President of Global Inside Sales at BlackBerry. Lori, do me a favor. If someone wants to reach out to you, they want to connect with you, they want to get a hold of you, is it LinkedIn? Is it Twitter? Is it email? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn. Absolutely.
All right. So be able to connect with you and tell Lori that you heard her on Selling with Social. And Lori, before I go, I love asking my guests this question. You are totally unprepared for this, so I can't wait to see your answer. And the question is, your all-time favorite movie. What is it?
Oh my gosh, my all-time favorite movie. Oh, that's a really tough one. I'm going to have to think about this one, Mario. All-time favorite movie. Gone with the Wind. What am I thinking? I'm from the South. Gone with the Wind.
Wait, what is it? Gone with the Wind?
Gone with the Wind. I'm a Southern girl, and so it is Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind. We haven't had that one. We'll take it. Gone with the Wind. I love it. Well, I'm so excited that you were here with me on the podcast, and I'm even more excited that we're going to be together in South Lake Tahoe at the Frost Star event. And so I want to thank you for joining me on Selling with Social. Lori, you've been an amazing guest.
Thanks, Mario. Enjoyed being here. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining me on that episode of Selling with Social. I hope you found as much value in that episode as I did. Here's what I want you to do next. Please go to www.vengreso.com. That's VENGRESO.com. VENGRESO.com. And make sure that you get access to our content. We've got the latest and greatest in digital sales, sales training, content marketing, and social selling strategies that are going to help you grow your sales pipeline. I look forward to having you on the next show of Selling with Social. Make sure you also go to Vengreso.com/podcast to be able to get access to the latest and greatest Selling with Social episodes, along with any of the other episodes that we've got from Social Business Engines with my friend and partner, Bernie Borges, along with Conversations with Phil with my friend and partner, Phil Gerbishak. Thanks again for joining on Selling with Social.